My brother stole my 3-year-old kid's project for a corporate deal. I sent proof to his lawyer, tanked the contract, and watched him get fired on New Year's Eve. They say you'll never forget the moment you realize your family considers you disposable. For me, that moment occurred on Christmas Eve, surrounded by twinkling lights, sugar cookies, and the kind of cheer that usually hides the cracks in a family. My name is Matthew. I'm 42. And until that night, I thought I knew how far my parents would go to play favorites. I did not. I have 2 kids, Josie, 13, and Samuel, 11. They're smart and kind, the type of kids who write thank you notes and still believe in magic. I won't say they're perfect, but they're good. My wife, Delilah, and I have done everything we can to provide them with a life full of stability, love, and the holiday traditions I did not grow up with. I thought I had left the toxicity behind and carved out something healthier. It turns out that the past has a way of making its way back in. We live about 2 hours from my parents. Every year, despite our strained relationship, we would drive to the big family Christmas Eve party. My mother would insist we all wear red. Dad would pour spiked eggnog like holy water, and the living room would fill up with my siblings, spouses, and grandchildren. My older brother Julian would always arrive late, grandiose, with his son Mason in tow, and some excuse about a last-minute work thing that necessitated a new haircut and designer jacket. Julian has always been the golden child. He could forget birthdays and miss family events and still be treated like a war hero. Last summer, I helped my parents repaint their kitchen. When Julian was too busy, she took time off from work to drive her mother to her surgery. No one remembered that, but when Julian posted a photo of his latte art, his mother would say, "So proud of my boy." It used to hurt. Now I just let it go. I found peace by lowering my expectations. This year, however, was different. We arrived a little early. Josie helped arrange the cookies on the tray, and Samuel attempted to sneak one when no one was looking. Delilah poured cocoa for the kids and smiled her way through Mom's comments about how well behaved they are right now. I should have known something was wrong when I saw the pile of gifts under the tree. They were stacked high. Shiny bows. Glittery paper. Large and small. Handwritten tags. But, as I looked closer, I noticed something strange. None of them knew Josie or Samuel's names. I reasoned that they might be in another room. Maybe Mom was doing that thing where she hides the gifts to create suspense. That's something she used to do, correct? Julian arrived late. As usual. Mason, now 14 and developing into a smirky teenager, swaggered behind him, as if he owned the place. Julian greeted the room like a politician, hugging Mom and fist-bumping Dad while ignoring me completely. I saw Mason walk straight to the tree and say, "Whoa, that's all for us. All for the grandkids who made us proud this year," Dad said with a wink. I froze. The grandkids who made us proud. My stomach tightened, but I refrained from jumping to conclusions. Delilah squeezed my hand. She'd heard it too. Mom ushered everyone into the living room, practically bouncing with excitement. We wanted to do something special this year to recognize the grandchildren who have excelled. Top of their class, helpful around the house, and making us very proud. I looked down at Josie and Samuel. Josie's smile faded. Samuel shifted uncomfortably. Julian stood behind them like a proud stage dad, and Mason puffed up his chest. Mom handed Mason his first gift from Grandma and Grandpa. Mason ripped it open. An iPad. I blinked. The next item was a pair of expensive sneakers. Then, a gaming headset. Then a drone. Every gift was for Mason. Different tags and wrapping, all addressed to him. Samuel leaned toward me. Are ours arriving later? I couldn't respond. Then came the kicker. Mason held up the drone and laughed. He looked directly at Josie and Samuel and said, "I suppose you didn't deserve one." My jaw clenched. I looked at Mom and Dad, expecting some sort of correction or acknowledgement, but Mom just chuckled and said, "Oh, he's just teasing." Josie appeared to be trying not to cry. Samuel stared at the floor. Delilah's face was pale. Her mouth opened slightly, as if she intended to say something, but she did not. And me? I did not cause a scene. I didn't yell or flip the table, despite my overwhelming desire to do so. Instead, I took a deep breath, and slowly stood up, saying, "Come on, guys. We're on our way home." Mom blinked. "Oh, don't be silly. Dinner's in an hour." "We're not hungry," I said, my voice calm but cold. "Come on, get your coats." Josie said nothing. Samuel followed quietly, the drone still buzzing in the background. Julian muttered, "Drama queen." And that was it. We drove home silently. Samuel fell asleep in the back. Josie sat beside him, her head leaning against the window, tears running down her cheeks. Delilah stared out the front window, her hands in her lap, the tension between us building. I did not speak. I was too preoccupied with replaying the scene, each time cutting deeper than the last. The gifts, the laugh, the way my parents smiled through it all, and my daughter's expression when she realized she didn't matter to them. That night, after tucking the kids in and watching Josie clutch the small stuffed bear she used to sleep with years ago, I reached for my phone. I was staring at the message I was about to send. Not dramatic, not angry, simply final. Do not ever invite us again. We are not your punchline. I hit send, and the fallout began the next morning. The text returned as read. No response, no apologies, nothing. I watched the screen for a few minutes, hoping that my parents would realize what they had done and call. But the only notification I received that morning was from our local pharmacy, which reminded me to pick up Josie's allergy medication. Delilah entered the kitchen, holding 2 mugs of coffee. She handed me one without saying anything and sat across from me, asking, "Are you okay?" I slowly nodded, but I wasn't. Something inside me had popped open. I wasn't simply hurt anymore. I was angry, quietly and deeply, in a way I hadn't felt in years. And beneath the anger was shame, not for what I did, but for how long I endured it. See, Christmas was not the first time my parents made my children feel invisible. It wasn't the first time they'd overlooked Delilah or referred to Julian as the second coming of Steve Jobs. But it wasn't until I saw the look on my daughter's face that I realized she understood, that she could feel the difference, and that she was beginning to believe it. Over the next few days, I tried to focus on our own vacation. We played board games, baked cookies, exchanged gifts, and lit the fireplace. But something had changed in the atmosphere, as if a window had been cracked open in a room that we thought was sealed. We tried to move on, but the cold persisted. New Year's arrived and went quietly. Then, a week into January, my phone broke. It was a group chat my mother had started years ago, simply called Family. It was mostly quiet, with the exception of the occasional happy birthday or blurry photo of my father's barbecue attempts. But this time, Mom. Hello everyone. I just wanted to start planning Mason's big birthday weekend. He will be 14 this year. Can you believe it? We are thinking about a ski lodge getaway. Cabins cost around $350 per night, but we can split. Who is in? I stared at the message, my thumb hovering above the screen. Delilah was putting away groceries when she noticed my face. What is wrong? I directed the screen toward her. She read it, blinked, and laughed. It was a bitter and sharp sound. They are unbelievable. I did not respond in the group chat. I didn't say anything. Julian did, however, respond a few minutes later. Julian sounds amazing. Mom, count me in. And Mason too. Matthew can probably cover our cabin, too. He still owes me for the laptop I gave him in high school. That wasn't even the truth. He gave me an old broken Dell during senior year because he was getting a brand new MacBook. Even then, he made me borrow it, as if he were doing me a favor. However, no one corrected him. Not my mother, father, or sister Ava, who chimed in shortly after. Ava, haha, yes. Mason's birthday is basically a holiday. Let's make it big. I did not respond. I left the group chat that afternoon. A few hours later, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted, Mom, I can't believe you left the family chat. That's immature, Matthew. I typed and deleted at least 4 responses before deciding on one word. Me. Was noted. Her response was immediate. Mom, what's your problem lately? This is about the Christmas thing, isn't it? You always overreact. I did not respond again. I was done explaining things to people who wouldn't listen. But I didn't realize how deep the favoritism went until a week later, when Josie returned home from school with a folder full of class assignments. She was excited and smiling, finally regaining her energy. Guess what? She asked, holding out the folder. I was chosen for the school's STEM fair. I grinned. That's awesome, Jay. What are you going to build? I want to do a solar-powered oven, she told me. My teacher said it was a good idea. Delilah and I pumped her up all evening. We ordered some materials online, printed out diagrams, and even started designing presentation boards. That weekend, I shared a photo of her sketching ideas at the dining table. Just a quiet father moment. Nothing showy. The caption read, "Proud of my little engineer." A day later, my sister Ava shared a photo of Mason holding a basketball. Ava's caption read, "My nephew equals next NBA MVP. Sorry, not sorry." Mom then commented on her post. "Genius boy. We're so proud of you, Mason." Silence. Delilah noticed first. They did not even like the post. I shrugged. That's fine. But it wasn't. Because Josie approached me 2 days later. Confused. Grandma posted a picture of Mason on Facebook and said he was the smartest grandkid. I didn't respond. When did she post it? Josie inquired quietly. He won something at school, a spelling bee. She wasn't crying, but her face had that hollow look I'd seen around Christmas. That quiet, defeated confusion that children experience when confronted with something too large to comprehend. I pulled her closer. Hey, you're amazing, okay? And we'll always be proud of you. She nodded into my chest, but I could feel her body tense. The next day, I called my mother. She responded with the same tone she always used when she thought I had something to apologize for. Well, look who finally decided to call. Did you really post that Mason is your smartest grandkid? I sought clarification. My voice sounded calm, but I was not. Oh, come on, Matthew. It's just a figure of speech. You're really taking things too personally these days. You know Josie saw that, right? She's a child. She'll get over it. That's when something inside me changed. No. I replied quietly. She shouldn't have to get over it. A pause followed. Matthew, you're blowing this way out of proportion. You always have to be the victim. No, I've just stopped pretending it doesn't hurt. One more moment. Then she said something that would stick with me for the rest of the year. Well, maybe if you raised your kids to stand out more, they'd get the attention you want so badly. I wasn't screaming. I did not argue. I just hung up. Delilah was in the doorway. She'd heard the entire thing. She walked over, sat beside me, and whispered, "We're done with them, right?" I agreed. But, of course, it was not over. 2 weeks later, in February, I received a letter from my parents. Not a card, not an apology, but a letter. It was written in my father's handwriting. It was clean and cold. Matthew, we're disappointed in how you've handled things lately. Cutting ties over perceived slights is childish. We hope you'll reconsider your attitude and remember that family means putting pride aside. At the bottom, my mother had written, "Tell Josie and Samuel we love them, even if they don't always deserve it." I didn't show the letter to the kids. I did not want them to see the poison in writing, but I did show it to Delilah. She read it once, then again, then set it down and remained silent for a long time. She said, "You know what the worst part is?" "What?" "They think they're the victims." I laughed bitterly. They always have, but even then, I thought we'd hit the bottom. I thought that letter was the worst it would get. I didn't know yet what Julian had been up to behind the scenes. I didn't know what my parents were planning for Easter. I didn't know how far they were willing to go to pretend they'd done nothing wrong and how deep they'd dig that hole before trying to drag me down into it. Because the betrayal that broke everything had not yet occurred, but it was imminent. And once it did, there would be no turning back. The aftermath of that letter hung over our house like dense fog. For weeks, everything I did, every dish I washed, every meeting I sat through at work, and every bedtime story I read had a faint background noise of Mom's scribbled line at the bottom of the page. Even if they don't always earn it. Josie didn't see it, but she felt it. I could see it in the way she hesitated to show us her schoolwork now. Samuel looked at her before asking for help with homework, as if he was afraid his older sister would snap. She never did. However, the lightness in her step had dimmed, as if someone had taken her pride and examined it with disapproval. I was drowning in shame and frustration. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because I had let it get this far, by allowing my children to love people who could not love them back in the way they deserved. By the middle of February, Delilah and I were sitting down one night after the kids had gone to bed, the TV quietly humming with a cooking competition. Neither of us were looking. She reached over and muted it. "I know you're spiraling," she said gently. "But you've got to pull yourself out of this. You did the right thing, walking away." I let out a sigh. I just feel like I let them steal something from me. From the kids. They didn't steal it. They tried, but you stopped it in time. You protected them. It didn't feel like it. But that conversation started a debate. Not a burst of motivation. Not some grand phoenix rise from the ashes moment. Just a small click in my brain, a quiet decision to stop waiting for validation from my family. If they weren't going to be the village behind my children, I'd build one from scratch. So I started small. I offered to chaperone Josie's STEM club one Friday after school. It felt awkward at first. I was the only father there, surrounded by enthusiastic mothers and a slightly frazzled science teacher who appeared grateful just to have another adult present. Josie smiled when she saw me in the hallway. "You came," she whispered, half embarrassed and half excited. I stayed in the corner, mostly assisting kids with taping down poster boards or testing circuits that kept shorting out. But I noticed how Josie stood a little taller that day. She raised her hand more and explained her solar oven idea to two of the younger kids who were struggling with their own. "When we got in the car," she said, "it was cool that you were there. It hit me harder than I expected. Later that week, Samuel came home and mentioned a soccer skills workshop he wanted to attend. It was early Saturday morning, which typically meant cartoons and pancakes, but I signed us both up. I hadn't kicked a soccer ball in years, but Samuel wasn't concerned. He simply wanted to do something with me. And gradually, life began to shift. I joined a local dads group that focuses on community volunteering and mutual support, rather than one that meets to drink beer and complain. We made toy kits for children in hospitals, organized cleanup days at local parks, and even hosted a Dad and Me event at the library, where I watched Samuel read the BFG aloud to 3 other children, like a tiny motivational speaker. Meanwhile, I became more focused on my work. I was a mid-level project manager for a logistics software company. And, while I was always good at it, I never sought to improve. I'd spent too many years trying to keep my head down and seeking approval from the wrong people. With nothing to lose, I stepped forward. I volunteered to lead a difficult cross-departmental initiative that had been stuck for months. I stayed late, learned the parts of the system that I'd always avoided, and took responsibility when things broke. My boss took notice. At the next all-hands meeting, he addressed me by name. "Matthew's been quietly keeping this whole operation afloat," he told me. "If you've benefited from faster rollouts this quarter, thank him." The Slack messages began to arrive. Not just accolades, but opportunities. Someone in another department informed me about a product pilot. Another person offered to recommend me for a leadership fellowship. I wasn't used to it, but I didn't dismiss it. Delilah was also doing well at home. She'd taken on some freelance consulting work, leveraging her marketing background to assist local businesses with branding and outreach. She'd started doing Zoom calls from the guest bedroom, her voice clear and confident. "You're different lately," she told me one evening. "It's like you're finally letting go of the weight." And I was. Because here's what I didn't expect: cutting off my parents and siblings. It hurt. Of course it did. But it also created space to breathe, think, and build. However, this does not imply that the past has been quiet. In early March, my sister, Ava, sent me an Instagram message. No phone call, no text message, just a DM with a screenshot of a photo Delilah had posted of Josie's completed solar oven project. Josie stood next to it, grinning, as sunlight reflected off the aluminum panels. The caption read, "My little innovator. First place in the district showcase." Ava's message beneath the screenshot read, "So, we're just pretending none of this drama happened now." I did not respond. 10 minutes later, another message arrived. "Mason wanted to congratulate Josie. He's matured, you know." I didn't respond because I knew this wasn't a truce, a test, or an invitation to crawl back so they could pretend it was all a misunderstanding. I deleted the message. A week later, Julian called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. "Hey, bro," he said as if nothing had happened. "Long time." I waited. "So, listen. Mom and Dad are planning a family Easter brunch. He said they were wondering if you guys might want to come by. Clear the air, you know. Start fresh." "Did they tell you to call me?" "No." He lied. I thought it was time. What exactly would I be clearing the air about?" He took a seat. "I mean, come on, man. You got real sensitive over some gift mix-up. Mason's a kid. He jokes around. And Mom and Dad, look. They love your kids. You know that. They just show it different." I let the silence continue. Then I asked, "Do you even remember what Mom wrote in that letter?" He laughed. "Letters? Who reads letters anymore?" I hung up, but the call had shaken me. Because it wasn't only about me. Easter was approaching, and Josie and Samuel had asked if we were planning anything with the whole family this year. They didn't miss the drama, but they did miss the sense of belonging, and I wanted to give them that back, not through forced vacations or fake apologies, but by creating something better. That week, Delilah and I decided to host our own Easter brunch. We invited 3 of Josie's STEM friends and their families. Samuel brought 2 soccer friends. Delilah contacted a coworker who was new to town and had twin girls. We purchased folding tables, string lights, painted eggs, and baked far too much food. I even borrowed a bunny costume from the community center and walked around the backyard like an idiot for 2 hours, handing out treats. And you know what? It was the best vacation we had had in years. There was laughter and warmth, but no forced smiles or passive-aggressive comments. Just pure joy. Josie ran up to me, face flushed, and said, "Dad, this is the best Easter ever." That's when I realized we hadn't just left something behind. We were creating something new. Of course, the past was not finished with us yet. Because 2 days after that brunch, I received a certified letter from a law office. And when I opened it, the headline chilled my blood. It was a notice of revocation.